get back into your book. So Tracey Sofra, the author of Finding Financial Freedom, you're also my financial planner.
Yes.
And so I found that the approach you took was so true to what you've written. And a couple of years ago when we started with you and you took us through the process of looking at our values, it was a great, really, really great exercise, because not only had we not done that before, but we also worked out what the values we were aspiring to, and that we were just not even on the track to achieving those values. And it wasn't what I expected from financial planning either. So I suppose the first couple of chapters in your book was what I really wanted to go over with you tonight, because, you know, we're 6 or 7 weeks now into the new year. Some of the New Year's resolutions people have set have probably already fallen by the wayside. But I found that if you look at your values and set goals based on those, you're more likely also to follow the goals, aren't you?
Yes, you are. Yeah, definitely. Look, that book itself is it's absolutely a culmination of where I came from, the experiences that I had, the profession that found me, I didn't find it, and the partner that I found in life. It's a culmination of all of those things. I mean, you are your environment. To a certain extent, you evolve from where you come from. So a lot of that is in the book. And I desperately wanted to create something that was of value, because today on the internet we can find any information that we want. Information is abundant. So when I was growing up, not to give away my age, when I was growing up, information was not abundant. And if you wanted information, you either had to go to the library, or you had to have an Encyclopedia Britannica if you could afford it. We didn't. Or you had to have a father or uncle or mother or someone that was a professor. So information, if you had information back in those days, you were the expert. But these days, information is abundant. The thing is, because there's so much of it and there's so much choice, you get confused. You don't know what to do. And also, that information for me was not relevant until I had some shifts in who I was, until I understood where I came from. So for me, it was about, you know what, I've got all of this, and I know everyone can get it on the internet, and it's all in my mind. It's what I do every day of the week. But how do I make this of value to anyone when they pick up the book? Is it another book with 101 tips, or is it a book that's actually they're going to read and go, oh, is that why I do that? Because I had those moments when I did those worksheets that you'll see in the book about finding out where you came from. What were the conversations when you were a child at home? How did your mum and dad talk about money? So we're talking about where we come from money. When I did those, because I did the whole thing that is in the book, I had those moments of, oh my God, I'm my father. You know, it was that sort of thing. And it's seriously. So I wanted to create some sort of a shift, a mindset, anything that I could grab onto, gravitate to, and then build on with knowledge and that data stuff that I talk about. Because I think only then can we create some change. And let me tell you, it is a lifelong challenge and a lifelong battle. It is not something you're going to get out of reading one book or 5 books or 10 books. I'm old enough to know that it's an evolutionary process, but that is the fun part of it all. So if you can get a book like mine that actually resonates, that captures some part of you, and you go, oh my God, I get that, keep reading, because it will help you. And don't just read mine, read everybody else's, because it's great to have that different perspective from people that write differently. I think that's really important too. We can't just have tunnel vision.
No, true. And isn't it true as well that the right book comes at the right time?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really interesting. You should say that.
That's right, because you've just told me about The Slight Edge, obviously, which I've just bought, and I've got the first chapter under the belt, and it's really, really interesting as well. So, I mean, your book is not exclusively for women, obviously, but it does have a very female focus. mainly exactly because what you were saying, your experience. And so particularly because you also do WOW, you're obviously very much about empowering women. And I was reflecting on that a little bit today before we were jumping on this webinar. And we've obviously come a long way over the last 100 years or so as women, since we, were started to be able to vote, since we got contraception, since we were even allowed to go into a pub with men, to being able to be elected on boards and into parliament and all those sorts of things. And I also, on your suggestion, had a look at the financing figures recently as well. And so it's quite interesting in the economic equality in that Financier reports on every quarter where women are up to. And so we still have a gender pay gap of 14%, and that's across industries. And I know that the legal industry, obviously, which I'm in, is more up around 18 or 19%. And if you look at barristers, sometimes the wage gap is 50 to 100% because they're self-employed. And then we also look at the gap on super, and that is quite depressing, with a lifetime super gap of 34%. So it's obviously so important for women to take control of their finances. And hence, I suppose this comes back to, again, actually starting to consciously think about your values, because if you're willing to just slide on through life without looking at your values and setting goals, then potentially you'll end up just at someone else's mercy or someone else's financial mercy. So, I mean, I'm on a little bit of a rant here.
It's not a rant. It's spot on. And keep going, because I've got a bit of a rant myself.
Well, I suppose women can't, there's some systematic disadvantages obviously set up in the financial systems, in the way super's paid, in the way we're paid at work, in the legal system. There are some disadvantages. And so we can't have a huge impact on our external influences. But you talk in your book about the difference between external and internal influences. And obviously we can control more the internal influences, which are the stories you're talking about. So the stories that we grew up and we tell ourselves are an internal influence, which we can have some control over. And you were talking about the stories your parents tell. And I very much grew up in a working class family as well, where money doesn't grow on trees, and, you're growing too fast, so we're not going to spend money on shoes. We're going to get hand-me-down clothes, all those sorts of things. And they carry through because, I've got my own financial baggage that I'm working through as well. So I just think that the patterns can persist if we're not consciously looking for them too, don't they? So how do we even start?
There's so much in there. I'm not sure how long I'm going to go for, but let's start with those stories in your head. I call it the tape recording in my head. And this is why we do the where did I come from with the money. This is why we do those exercises in chapter 1 and 2. This is why we look at where we come from, what was going on in the household as we grew up. What did mum and dad say about money? Did they say that money was evil, or did they not talk about it at all? Or was everything on credit, or was everything purchased until you saved the money? How did it work in your household? Are you still doing that in your adult life? Are you doing that without assessing your adult values now? What I mean by that is, we just grow up from a family and then we start working and away we go and we start living without even questioning what is going on. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But at some point, what I'm saying is, hang on, who are you today? And you don't have to be your mum and dad. And it's not 1965 or 70 or 75. I'm a bit older. Let's look at who you are and what's important to you, and are your actions now, the actions you're taking with your money, matching what's important to you? So if you're saying that my values are that I have a very comfortable retirement and I provide for my children, and I want to make sure that I am not dependent on anyone else. But right now you're spending every cent you earn. I think there's a mismatch. Because what you value and what you're doing are two different things. They're not matching up. And just coming to that realization, I'm not saying the minute you get there, you're going to go, oh my God, I'm going to be perfect now. I'm not saying that at all, but you need to have that realization where you go, holy mackerel, what am I doing? Behavior does not match value. How do I get a closer match to what I value and what I want? What represents what's important to me? And so it's having that sort of realization, and that is in the first part of the book. And if you can have that realization, you're going to take on the information that I then forward on with probably more of an open mind and more of a, I'm going to take this on attitude rather than, well, I'm not sure I like what I'm reading, so to speak. But I'm really interested about, more so than that, what you spoke about before about how far women have come. I've probably, no, not probably, I have never said this before. I come from a family, my grandfather had 9 wives in the Ottoman Empire back in the early, my background is from Turkey. I was born there. I came when I was 5. My grandfather had 9 wives. My grandmother was the 9th wife before Turkey became a republic. This is in the Ottoman Empire days. So you're talking about a person that came from this background. My father was very pro-women. He had 5 daughters. I was the youngest of 5. So there was no way he was going to raise 5 girls that were going to be dependent on any man. So we were raised very proactively to say, you will get an education. You will not be reliant on a man. You will, and that was my father's take on it. So how did I get here? Well, surprise, surprise, how I got here. But isn't it interesting of where I come from and where I am today? It's quite mind-boggling to think of that. My father had 21 brothers and sisters from all of those other wives. I had cousins that were, when I met one of my cousins when I first went back, I was 18 and she was like 64. So quite a spicy family, but this is my background of where I came from. And so why am I so pro-women? I guess because of that upbringing from my father. Not once did I hear as I was growing up, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, I'm just telling you who I am. Not once did I hear, one day you will grow up and get married and have children. I always heard this story. One day you will grow up and you will get an education and be a strong woman, and you will not be reliant on anyone else. And so, and ultimately at some point you digress along the way and you rebel and all that, but you ultimately come back to that path. And I guess that's what drives me to say, hey, we're underpaid. We stop to have families. We're more likely to look after family members. We change jobs. We might go part-time. No wonder our super, of course our super is going to be less than men. Some women take, with the 2 kids that I had, I only took probably 9 months each time, not for economic reasons, because I was very career orientated. But a lot of women choose, and it is their choice, to stay home for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever that may be. The impact of that is enormous from a super point of view, absolutely. Yeah. Also from the point of view of having the confidence in going back into the workforce, the skill set, the level at which they're re-entering. I was mentoring a young girl, incredible young girl, and she was talking about not going to partnership status because she was thinking about settling down and how it would affect when she had the kids. She wasn't even engaged yet. For anyone that's read Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In, yes? When she said, don't leave until you leave, that's exactly what she was talking about. She had been speaking to somebody that was working with her about the exact same thing, and this girl wasn't even in a relationship. Oh. As women, look, we are different. Yeah. And I think we should celebrate our differences. I know that we feel and think and tick differently, and we need to embrace that. And we need to understand that that makes us who we are, but it shouldn't hold us back. And the only thing that holds us back is our own self, because we're not stepping forward to understanding and taking control of our finances. I get it's not sexy, but it's so important, isn't it?
Yep.
What can you do these days, Jacqui, without money?
You can't even really go for a run because you still need shoes, don't you?
I'm guessing you do. And the other thing, as you were speaking, and I didn't want to interrupt you, as you were speaking, we've got to stop. And I see a lot of this, and I felt it even in my own personal self over the years. We've got to stop riding on the tails of someone else. We've got to stop that.
Just like that girl too, though.
Right?
Just like that girl you were talking about too, the shoulds. What we should be doing and thinking about.
Well, it is a bit of a security. It's sort of like a safety net. We think that the men are the safety net. And that's fine, but and I guess to some extent, you know, when you're having kids, you need some sort of safety net, but it's never fine to totally give up on the conversation. It's never fine not to be at the table saying, yes, let's talk about the finances. What's going on? Where are we at? You know, to be responsible, to step up and understand what's going on, and not to say, you know what, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I wasn't good at maths, and I don't have the time. That's never okay.
Or this is just how it's done. This is what should happen.
Never.
Yeah. No.
No. It's 2019 now. No.
Yay!
Hey.
Yeah, well, nearly 2 decades into this century, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so your book, it's got this great little diagram which goes, your old stories lead to your present values, and then your present values lead to your future and what your financial future will be. So if you take more control of what your values are now, your financial future can be very different than what it would be if you didn't think about it at all.
Absolutely.
Which is a great thing as well, because you were talking about just because you've realised today what values you have doesn't mean things will miraculously change, but it's the first step to the mountain, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we all have to start with the first step. We live in a click, sort of touch click society where we think that there's a quantum leap to everything. And we think that there is an overnight success, or there is an instant win, or they won Tats Lotto, or get rich quick overnight. Can I just say this? It's all crap. It's not real. And by the time you've seen that person up there, you've missed all this hard work that they've been doing for such a long time by the time they got there. But you just saw that, you didn't see all this other stuff. So it's really, really important to understand that everything starts with the first step. You must have faith. And it comes back to this book. And the reason I resonated with this book so much, which is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, is that he talks about this exact same concept. And he says, you know what? Easy to do, easy not to do. Will anyone notice? Probably not. Will it make a difference in your life today, tomorrow, next week? No, probably not. Is it pretty mundane? Goes unnoticed, yes. But if you consistently do the same thing every single day, at some point it's going to have a compound effect. And it's the exact same principle as the compound effect of money. It looks, you know, when you talk about compound, today it starts little and it takes a long time to build up that momentum. But it's like a snowball. When the snowball rolls and rolls and rolls and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it actually has a massive effect at the end. You've just got to have faith. And you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to take the first step, and you've got to keep reminding yourself of why you're doing it. And the why is because of your values and who you are and what you stand for. That's your why.
Yes. Which brings it back so well, really, doesn't it? Because people think, okay, I start putting away $100 a week now. And wow, in 10 years' time, I might have 50 grand. But no, there's compound interest on that. And sacrificing the $100 a week, they might give up on it if they haven't worked out what their values are, because then they just start dipping into it and going, oh, well, you know, I actually want that dress, so I'm going to take that back. And then it just all disappears. And then in 10 years' time, they're still where they were. So you very much taught us that as well, because we were just cruising along, not saving anything. But now we're saving $100 a week, and that's already, you know, at 10 grand. And we're like, wow. And it hasn't taken very long.
And see, that's the difference. And I always say to clients when they get a bit nervous, when I say, look, do you reckon you could find, and it, whatever it is, I don't really care what it is it 20, is it 50, is it 100, whatever it is. Can you just put it away in this other account? And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not sure if we can. And I think, okay. And I always say, what's the worst thing that could happen? You got a couple of grand over here. It's still your money. You can bring it back anytime you like. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Just try it. I promise you it will work. I promise you it will compound. You must have faith, and don't believe in the quantum leap. Do not think that your $100 is going to be $1 million in a month, because that's not real. And the people that tell you it's real are the people that probably trying to sell you something else. Yeah. And it's just not real. So have faith in knowing that the little steps consistently delivered over time will get you to where you want, and have faith that it resonates back to, so any time when in doubt, and I do this on a personal level, I regress back into myself. Who am I? What do I stand for? Why am I doing this? Where am I coming from in taking this action? If it's from a real place of values, who I am, what I represent, what I stand for, I will commit to it because it's already committed. But if it's not from a real place, I'm going to kind of quiver. It's not really going to work. It's going to be easier to give up. And coming back to the dress, I love buying dresses. So what happens, human nature is a funny thing. What happens is, as you mentioned, I talk about paying yourself first. When you pay yourself first, and remember, no one's going to give you a turn. No one's going to say, Jacqui, you've worked so hard. You should take all this money now. There's that bill and that bill and that bill and that bill and everything else. So you've got to stop and go, okay, when the money, whether it's business or your wage, 10 to 30%, bang, across to this other account. It's set and forget. Do not think you're going to do it yourself. Do a direct debit, please. It's so easy not to do it yourself, because every week you'll find an excuse not to do it. Direct debit, done, across to this other side. And funnily enough, somehow you learn to live off what's left. And you will learn to live off with what's left. Because I remember my uni days, and I say, geez, I had more money then than I did now. I earn more money now, but I found other things to spend it on. And we're all like that. You will find other things to spend it on, and you will find other things not to spend it on. Pay yourself first. And it is a simple, it's simple, it's effective, and it will pay off. Ultimately, it will pay off.
Great tip. So I want to get a little bit practical as well. And because we've got people listening, and we could chat all the time.
Okay, sure. Let's go. Let's get practical.
So in the book, because people will go like, well, how do I work out my values? And then how do I work out my goals from there? So you've got a great table in your book which just sets out a whole lot of values, and I'm sure that people could get another table very similar like this online with a list of values.
Absolutely.
So your idea then was to go and identify 10 out of the list and then prioritize your top 5, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then the process was reaffirming the values. So then sitting with it and making sure that is really what your value is or what you're aspiring to. How do you work that out? So
let me just say this at the start. Your values can change over time. so you can work on who you are today, and you should review these every 12 months because we are evolving creatures, and hopefully we do self-develop by going to wow days. And we grow and we learn and we experience and we change and we evolve. But right now, today, and I think some of the core values, no, I don't think, I'm absolutely certain, some of the core values never change. So, for example, for me, honesty, integrity, loyalty, commitment, love, respect, these things for me are never going to change because they represent at the heart of who I am. So you can Google this. As I said to you earlier, data is abundant. Get on the internet and Google. There'll be 101 different things. If you like, buy my book and do that, no problem. But you can Google it. And there's a lot of questionnaires that will help you define your values. Find something quite simple, making sure that it's not overly complicated. And what you'll find is initially, I always do the brain dump. Just don't overthink it. Just do the brain dump and go, if you've got a whole list, get a highlighter. I love highlighters. Highlight whatever resonates. Then go back and reflect and think, okay, well, service and community, they're probably alike. So maybe it's about community service, and try and find ones that are more or less the same sort of theme, if you like. And then that's one process of elimination. The second process of elimination is basically working out what resonates with you the most and ultimately getting to the top 5. Does it have to be 5? Not really. I mean, who made those rules? At the end of the day, whatever resonates with you, the simpler you can make it, that's why we're coming to the number 5. The simpler you can make it, the easier and better it is, and you should be able to say it off the top of your head. At your very core, when you're sitting alone, uninterrupted, and digesting these words, what's the one that makes your body go, oh, yeah, that's me. That is truly me. You need that space, you need that time, and you need to gift it to yourself to do that. And when you nail that, I suggest you laminate it, you type it, you have it somewhere, everywhere, to continuously remind yourself of who you are and what you stand for. Because today, more than ever, we are so distracted. I mean, I can vouch for that. I sit at my office, I've got the computer. And so on the computer, I've got emails. Then I've got the mobile phone with emails, text messages, messenger, and all the rest. Then I've got the landline, and it goes on. And it is so easy to get distracted. Life is busy and we're all running around like crazy people. But at some point during the day, whether it's the first thing in the morning or last thing when you go to bed at night, or when you're in the office or wherever you are, to flip over and go, oh, that's my 5 values. That's who I am, what I stand for. And it will make your decision-making a lot easier. So when people say, Jacqui, do you want to invest in this thing? It's going to make 18% and it's going to go and da-da-da-da-da. You might go, initially it might be, what? Oh, my God, this is a great opportunity, 18%. But when you look at your values, you might actually think, okay, what's the risk involved in that? Where's that investment? So what it does is it grounds you to understand who you are and be able to make better decisions, more informed decisions about any part of your life, not just financial, but any part of your life. And I think that's really important, to act based on values, because if you're living in a way that's not congruent with those values, there's going to be massive distress in your life. And if you're feeling distressed, it's probably because of that.
And a big lack of fulfillment as well, I suppose, because you're doing things that other people are thinking or you're doing things because you think other people want you to do them.
Absolutely. And as women, we are probably more at risk for that than anyone else, because we do tend to try and make sure everyone's happy. Everyone's okay, everyone's happy, and we always seem to be, I'm guilty of that. I try and make sure my kids, everyone's okay, and if there's any time left for me, I'll be fine, I'm okay. Whoever it is in your life. So we are more susceptible to that than anyone else. But it's But yes, and in society, and again, coming back to that, we are so bombarded with images because it's in our face all the time.
Mm.
Is it really what you want? Is it really who you are?
Mm.
Does it look nice? Is it who you are? Who are you really? I think there's an inner strength in that.
Very much so. And it comes back to the fellow you were talking about who's going to be a speaker at your one-day event, because not only is he looking at your financial career pillar, I suppose, you've got to look at certain aspects of your life and work out what your values are and then your goals in each, I suppose, because, for example, you and I often talk about our fitness and what we are doing, you know, at the gym or whatever.
Yep.
As you say, there's a lot of images all the time with, you know, women very slim, you know, bikinis, all this sort of stuff. And you can get caught up and spiral into that, but then you've got to sit really with your values. And if you value health rather than image, then maybe that's not something to pursue.
Absolutely. And that's a tough one, Jacqui. You know, I value health. I have always been caught up in image, whether you like it or not. It seems to be something that's more projected to women than men. I don't know why. But I think it's really important as women to celebrate the fact that we eat.
Yes. A lot.
We like to eat. And a woman's body is not necessarily the images we're being presented with. And, you know, I have a daughter who's 14. Thank goodness she doesn't have an image problem. But I'm always conscious of the younger women and how they're feeling and what they're feeling about those sorts of things. That's another area that we desperately need to fix as women. You know, we need to get other women out there that actually look like women and that actually eat food, because I'm not sure those skinny ones eat. Do they eat?
No, probably not. Probably not. Maybe once a week.
How do you look like that and eat? But anyway. But, you know, looking like that doesn't mean you're actually healthy and fit. No. It's a different thing, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, and this could take me on a bit of a tangent too. I don't want to go too far down this, but, you know, when we have prominent, strong female leaders in positions which are traditionally male, we then pick on what they wear, what their weight's looking, how big their hips are in that. Oh, that doesn't match that. Oh, her face is a bit shiny today. Oh, those earrings, you know. So it's very much a media thing as well. Like, we have to tear our female leaders down for an image, and men don't have to.
No, it's mad. I mean, nobody says Malcolm Turnbull's half bald and, geez, he's got a bit of a shine on his thing and his makeup's not right and that tie didn't match and what's that suit he's wearing? And, God, he's got a pot belly today and no one's picking on them, are they? I mean, it's just bizarre. And it's the old adage of some fat, bald guy saying that, you know, she's fat and he doesn't look at himself. Right? Okay, so you're gorgeous, but, you know, it's
double
crazy,
standards.
isn't it?
Double standards. Yeah. So much so. All right. So I just wanted to let our attendees know that if you did have any questions, you can type them into the chat box, and I'll have a look at those just in a second. But what I was
happy to
also
take any questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
What I was also thinking of was, you know, I've obviously committed to helping out with the one-day event, 26th of May. And I was thinking maybe we can offer the people who are watching here today, or people who do this before maybe, let's say, the end of March. If I offer 2 of my chairs at the WOW event for someone, could you do like a random draw or something for people who buy your book between now and the end of March? do a random draw and I'll have 2 tickets to the one-day event. Could we do something like that? Do you think we can organise that?
Of course we could. We could do that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And, they need to get to this event, because this event will change the way they think. We'll open their minds to different things. We'll get them in a room filled with women like you and me and all these speakers and all these amazing women. I mean, they can make connections that they potentially never had before. They can listen to Kim. They can listen to Marcus. They can listen to myself. We're having the panel again of 3 local women who are going to share their stories again. So it's so important, if you truly believe in life, that you are a masterpiece, ever evolving, and you want to improve yourself. I mean, it's in your own backyard. It's here in Shepparton. You don't have to travel 2 hours and go to Melbourne and stay overnight and, pay the $250 price ticket. It's right here.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing event.
Yes. And so I'll put up 2 free tickets. And so we have to send them somewhere to buy your book, don't we? Where is that?
Well, if they just email me at Tracey.
Okay, yeah, give you your email.
So Tracey with an EY at Sofcorp, which is SOF for Fred, CORP.com.au, and we will organise that for you.
Cool. I'll put that in the I've put that in the chat. If you want to email Tracey, buy a book, let her know that it was because you were on this webinar. And then you can go in a random draw, and we could do like a Facebook Live or something to do the draw, because I'm coming over
that'd be great.
in March, aren't I? So, so we can do the draw live, 2 free tickets to that wow event. How good's that?
That's awesome. That's great. Let's do that. We can do that.
Yeah, we can make anything happen.
Make sure you're taking advantage of that. That's great. Thank you, Jacqui. Great idea.
No worries. All right. Do you want to leave our attendees with anything else? Maybe a question that they could ask themselves.
Has anyone got any questions at all?
Other than Tiff, and Tiff didn't ask a question. She was just telling us whether she would hear us or not. We haven't had anyone else put anything in the chat.
Oh, I love questions. I love doing this sort of thing. It's great. I really do. That's okay. Look, I think the most important place to start is with yourself. I don't think it's important to go off and get a heap of information without knowing who the hell you are. Bottom line is self-discovery. And that in itself is a lifelong journey. But you have to start somewhere, and understanding what makes you tick, who you are, what you stand for. And when you can stand in that and actually feel like it's a journey that I am on, have been on for a very long time, love being on, love the idea of self-improvement, self-development, who I am, what makes me tick, why do I do this, why me, why now, why me, why this message, why me, So I ask, I'm constantly curious as to these questions that I try and answer. I haven't worked out why me, why now, but so I'm sharing this. Well, I don't know, Jacqui, but I'm sharing this because a lot of what I do comes from a place of vulnerability and openness. I can't communicate any other way than to tell people that I'm like you and I'm at this point in my life at the moment, because I don't preach. So if you can understand that I'm here and you go, okay, well, God, she's on her way, and you can somehow connect to that, you might be more inspired to step forward and take your own step, rather than kind of listen to these people that think they know it all. I certainly don't. I have a great toolbox. I have a profession. I have knowledge, but I'm still a person that's learning about me and evolving at the same time. So I'm just like everybody else. So if that helps people, I hope it does. So the first place, the question I would ask that everyone asks themselves is, where am I in my life at the moment? And am I living true to my values? And if you don't know what your values are, either get the book and do it, or get online and do it. But just do it. and start somewhere. Come up with
Just
something.
Start. Yes.
Start somewhere. Just start. And if you're a perfectionist, which I'm self-confessed, working on it, let that go. That will hold you back. That is horrible. Just do something.
Just start. That's your your tagline. Tracey Sofra, just start.
Just start. It's sort of like just do it, isn't it?
It is like Nike. Yes.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for making the time to be here tonight and have this chat. I always get so much from talking to you. I really appreciate it. And I hope that those who've attended appreciate it, and those who listen to the replay also appreciate it. So
thank you, Jacqui. It's an absolute pleasure. You know, I love you. And I guess why me, why now? Because I just love to share. Yeah. Love sharing. So if anyone got something out of it, well, then I'm happy. That makes me happy. If it empowers somebody else and makes somebody else's life better, that's awesome.
I certainly learn from you. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to stop the recording and